Hi, I'm Jennifer Edwards, and this is the Knitterly Arts Podcast, episode number 4. And I'm just popping in today to let you know about my art show that happened yesterday. It was a lovely time. To also share with you some updates about knitting projects and just talk creativity in general. So, my art show yesterday, it is always it's always amazing and overwhelming to me, the people who take time out of their Saturday to come and spend it at our little gallery here in Kernersville, North Carolina. And it was marvelous, marvelous to see so many friends, family that came in from out of town, students of mine who are also my friends. I call them students, but they're really sweet, dear friends who came out for this, and even people that I don't know. And it's, as an artist, you're always wondering how these things are going to go. You're wondering, if anybody will come, whether they'll like what you have offered, whether, just what the turnout is going to be like. And it's always, every year, it is this beautiful reception, and I feel very loved. My husband did as well. And it's also very cool to see who the owners are of your pieces of artwork. That's a really cool find and discovery, is to see who gravitates toward what, and who feels like, they're just so taken with a particular piece that they want to have it for their own. And that just delights me to no end. But really and truly, I don't do art shows for that specific reason. Yes, of course, it's wonderful to sell your work. It's wonderful for people to buy your knitting patterns, your crochet patterns. It's wonderful for people to invest in what you do. But it is just lovely to have a time where people come and carve out space in their day to enjoy and appreciate art. And so it was a lovely time. I had very briefly considered trying to do some sort of video of the art show, but it was full from just a couple of minutes after 4 until 7 o'clock, or even a few minutes after. So I really didn't have time to video anything. I am going to try and put a few photographs on knitterlyarts.wordpress.com, where you can find all the show notes. There'll be some photos of the show, etc. I'm sorry I didn't get a video for you. Maybe next year, maybe another time I can. This shawl, this wrap that I'm wearing, I'm now calling my art show wrap. I actually made it last year for the art show and wore it again this year. And I'm going to interrupt here because there is a kitty. And I'm going to introduce Lucy to you. And Lucy was down at the bottom of the music stand that I have holding, and she just needs to say hello. Hi, everyone. Yes. And I'm going to probably have to put her back out in the garage. We'll see if she goes and finds something else to do. No, I don't think she's going to. So I'll be right back. Okay, she's out in her playground. But this wrap, a little story about it. A friend of mine gave it to me a couple of years ago, actually. And it was just a simple knitted rectangular wrap with 2 buttons. And she didn't knit it. She had purchased it somewhere. I think that this is actually, there's a couple of free patterns out there called the 2-button wrap. Years ago in knitter history, the 2-button wrap was, all the rage. And I still encourage people to make that wrap because it's lovely. It's very simple, great for beginning knitters, and it just has 1 buttonhole and then 2 big buttons so that you can wear it and wrap it in different ways. So when she gave this to me, I loved it because of the color. This is one of my all-time favorite colors, this lime, but I as I typically want to do. I wanted to spruce it up somehow. So what I did was take a favorite quote of mine by Claude Monet, and that quote is, "I perhaps owe becoming a painter to flowers." And so I embroidered that. Here's Claude Monet here at the end of it. And I started the quote here at the beginning, and it goes all the way around the back, and then a vine with some flowers. I'll show you the whole thing. But this is just a simple chain stitch embroidery. And you can do it with a crochet hook, but I chose to do this with a yarn needle that has a large eye, and I used Noro yarn so that the variegated colors would change as I go. And then decided that it would be kind of cool to turn the buttonhole into a flower as well. And so you can see here, this is the end. Let me start at the beginning of it. And this is here the quote that I'm hoping you can see. "I perhaps owe becoming a painter to flowers" by Claude Monet. So that that wrap is a favorite of mine, and I chose to wear it again this year for the art show because it aptly describes me. I really think flowers were one of the initial inspirations for what I wanted to draw or learn to draw almost 20 years ago. I actually didn't take up drawing and painting until I was in my early 30s. So it is never too late to start something that you would like to learn how to do. I didn't go to school. I didn't get a degree in art. I just taught myself, and maybe sometime I'll take the time to tell you how I went about doing that. But it was just a passion that had been there all along, and I really wanted to learn how to do it. So I applied myself and continue to apply myself for many years. I am not finished learning for sure. But this way of working is something that I like to call blank canvas knitting or blank canvas work. So a lot of the knitting patterns and crochet patterns that I enjoy are actually very simple in construction and in stitch work. I tend to gravitate towards garter stitch, stockinette, lots of it, so that I can then apply surface embellishments on top of it, like you see in this piece here. The surface embellishing it might just be the embroidery, or it might be some crocheted flowers that are appliqued onto the top. Or embroidered flowers, however, whatever you want to put on there as your surface embellishment. You might want bits of fabric or what have you. But I love this way of working. In fact, as I shared with you in the last podcast, this, the Easy Folded Poncho Church Mouse pattern, it is a perfect example of what I call blank canvas knitting. Because you're going to end up with something that is elegant and beautiful on its own without any additional embellishing to it. But it is smooth, stockinette, lots of it. It's a blank canvas for you to add whatever you want to on it. And to me, it just begs for some kind of vine with flowers, maybe just the vine and have leaves. I don't know. It's percolating in there, and it'll percolate for a long time all through the knitting part of it. And then I'll be able to do the surface embellishing. So I'll try to share the process of that as I work on it. Sometimes the process is slow, but I like that because it gives me time to percolate. That's something as creatives we need to have time to percolate and think about our projects and what are we going to do and how are we going to embellish things and make them our own and make them unique and not just follow the rules, right? Not just follow a pattern, which there's absolutely nothing wrong with following a pattern. But I always think it's nice to add that little bit of something that's like, okay, I think I could do it this way. And for better or for worse, that's how I knit and crochet. That's how I paint and draw too. And you can approach a lot of different things that way. So I wanted to talk just a little bit, about the art show. I am probably your typical artist who has all the angst and the mental, what have you, that happens prior to an art show. All the questions, wondering how it's going to go and this and that. Am I any good at what I do? Blah, 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 blah. But I wanted to share with you a quote that has helped me a lot. In fact, I read this quote, it came across on my Instagram feed from one of my favorite yoga masters, Ian Finn. And I've been doing his yoga CDs for years, or DVDs for years. And the little quote that he had on Instagram was, "Nothing to prove, everything to share." And that, it just almost immediately set me free from so many of those voices in your head that can just drag you down, can keep you from wanting to offer what you do or what you make, keep you from wanting to share it with one other person, many other people, what have you. And in fact, it was that quote that was the impetus and kind of the key that unlocked me to go ahead and start this podcast. I have been trying to think for years now of how it is I would like to offer a podcast about my knitting and drawing. And so I just decided, you know what? It's not about having to prove anything to anyone. I just have a lot to share, and I want to share that with others. So as I went into the art show yesterday, that's what I was also thinking in my mind. There's nothing I have to prove here in this art show or in anything that I do. It is all about sharing what I love with others in hopes that they will also engage in those things as well and maybe be inspired to take up, it doesn't have to be painting or drawing or knitting. They might be inspired to take up mosaics or to take up needlepoint or some other kind of creative avenue. So that's a great quote I recommend to you. I also every now and then get a question: how do you do all this, Jennifer? Where do you find the time to do this? And for years, I would say it's my sanity, and I need a lot of sanity. The creative work that I do really does bring some sense of sanity to my life. And, even to the point where over the years, if I had not been able to paint or draw for a while, or I hadn't been able to knit in a long time, my husband would say, "Jen, why don't you go spend some time in your studio?" A good word for a creative sort, because our work is very life-giving and brings sanity to us. But the other thing is that I have often thought of myself as a marginal artist. Now, I don't mean by that I'm not marginalizing what I do. I'm not trying to be self-deprecating there, right? What I mean by that is, just as you have a piece of paper and you write all on the lines, there are margins on the edges that we... So these margins that we don't typically think about, we have margins in our lives all over the place. Little bits of time here and there that seem inconsequential, seem like there's really nothing we could do or accomplish during those little bits of time. But those are the bits of time that over the years I have wanted to capture. And so some of the things that I would do for instance, would be to take my knitting with me whenever I was taking children somewhere, when I was taking them to swim team practice or to soccer practice. And especially if I had to stay, I would knit during that time. I would also take my sketchbook with me when we went to other activities where I had, even 15 minutes, 20, 30 minutes where I could sit and sketch. And I did a lot of sketching my children in their activities. Gymnastics. I know I did a lot of drawings at gymnastics, at the playground, at the park. So all of these little snippets of time, even when I would go and be in pickup line at school, where you're just kind of sitting there for however long. I apologize. I'm having to start and stop a lot today, it seems like. But that is also part of the creative life, starting and stopping. In an ideal world, what we want is to be able to sit down and make for a long period of time. And, unless you live a fairly solitary life, it just doesn't happen often. And there's a lot of starting and stopping. If you're able to capture the margins in your life, the little bits of time, if you're able to get up a little bit earlier, if you're able to maybe stay up a little longer after everyone's gone to bed. I was the queen of capitalizing on nap time when my kids were little. I would just, the dishes would be stacked this high in the sink, and I would just say, no, when they're down for a nap, this is my painting time, or this is the time I sit and knit and work on the sweater that I'm knitting for one of my children, or as a gift for so-and-so, or something for myself, whatever it is. So think about ways that you can capture those margins in your life. Be a marginal artist or a marginal knitter. You know what we mean by that. Taking advantage of those margins. An artist that I have recently discovered, it actually has built an entire thought process, encouragement, everything around this whole idea of small snippets of time. And I'll put in the show notes for you a link to michaelknobs.com. You really ought to go check out what he has to offer. He has a beautiful way of talking about sustainable creativity that I think you will love and enjoy and be encouraged by. And he has a way of doing just daily, committing to a little daily slot of time, 20 minutes only, to something that you feel is really important for you. I have a lot of people who will say to me, I've always wanted to learn to knit. I've always wanted to learn to draw. I just don't have time. And really and truly, when we get down to it, we do have 20 minutes somewhere in our day that we could carve out and let be our knitting time, or let it be our sketching time, or whatever it is that we're wanting to do. And over time, those little bits, those little slivers of time, those few rows done within just little bits of time add up to a sock, or to a sweater, or to a wrap, or, it may take a while, but it's better than nothing. So I'll encourage you to check out Michael Knobs. He is a great one for encouraging us to take small bits of time and do the thing that you're wanting to do. Okay, so enough about art show. It was lovely, wonderful. Wish you all could have been there. And I'm still just kind of can't believe how amazing it was. So on to some projects. I wanted to update you. I don't know if you remember, in one of the first, maybe the second episode, there was this stripey thing. Oh, actually, let me see if I can pull it out. Yes, there was this stripey, wonderful, 2 different colorways of Noro sock yarn that I was knitting, and I was so excited about, and I had kind of committed to something, and I hit a wall with it. And it's not turning out to be what I was thinking. So this has now gone into the bag to percolate. That's what I call it when something needs to just kind of sit and simmer for a little while in the back of my mind. Think of how I want to rescue it, what I want to turn it into, try and listen to it to see what it wants to become, because obviously what I'm trying to make it become isn't what it's wanting to be. So, stripy thing is percolating right now. Oh, those socks. I forgot to get them. I finished the socks that I had been knitting on. Very fun. And I have now picked up and am charging along with another pair. This is one of the Arnie and Carlos designs and colorways. A real pretty lavender with red stripe. I just love the patterns that this sock yarn makes. And those are proving to be very fun. And I'm also waiting on some Christmas yarn to come to make this year's Christmas socks. I will tell you a little bit more about these. I did these last year, and they are very soft, but I need to find out the name of this yarn so that you can locate it if you want to. It's available at our shop, Knit One Smock 2 in Winston-Salem, but I'll let you know. The next episode that I have after Thanksgiving, I think is going to be all things Christmassy, and so I'll give you more information about that. And but I'm looking forward to this Christmas yarn, sock yarn coming, and starting on this year's pair of Christmas socks. And then I believe the last thing that I have to update you about is that the Jenny King crocheted jacket is finished. Mine is finished. Now, as is my wont, I rarely make a pattern exactly to what the pattern says for it to be, or exactly to design. So one of the ways that I altered this is that it called for long sleeves. And I had actually, I think you may remember in the last episode, I had shown you that this sleeve was much longer. And when I tried it on, I try things on numerous times when I'm making them for myself to fit me. And I just didn't like the way the sleeve looked. I'm not exactly sure why. It made my arms look a little bit like a football player's or something. And so I decided I liked the short sleeves. And the shawl collar I absolutely adore. But because I had chosen a different yarn, not the Noro Tayo, I was using a smaller hook size. This is all worsted weight yarns, all different ones. And if I had kept going round and round and round like the pattern called for, then the shawl collar was going to be, down to my elbows. And I wanted it longer in the back here. So I'm not sure if I can give you a sense of how this looks. But it is just a very fun, wonderful vest of yummy color. And I think I'm actually going to block it. I think it might allow the fibers to relax. Most of it is natural fibers, so I think that they'll relax a little bit and it might be a little bit less stiff. Crochet sometimes does that, but I also like the stiffness because of the shape that it gives. So I don't know. I'm thinking that I'll block it. I might not. We'll see. But I do love the colors, and it's very snuggly and warm, and I'm looking forward to being able to wear it. So that is pretty much all I have for you today. Just short and sweet. I do want to wish you a very happy Thanksgiving. I hope you're able to spend the holiday with some friends and family. I hope you're able to find some little margins in your holiday this week that you could sit and knit or crochet for a bit, or maybe Sit down with a sketchbook and just do a little doodle or two. Maybe you'll use the margin just to breathe and take a break from all the eating and festiveness and being with family. However you choose to use those margins, I hope that you do capture them and use them in the way that you would like to. And also in all of your making this week, remember, you don't have anything to prove to anybody, just everything to share. And whether it's something you share with one other person, or whether it's something you choose not to share, maybe it's something you choose to just keep to yourself as something secret and private, and you just enjoy making or drawing or doing a little illustrated journal of your life, whatever it is. I hope that you're encouraged by that, and just don't worry about how it turns out, how it looks. Enjoy the process. Have a very happy Thanksgiving, and be sure to check out the show notes on knitterlyarts.wordpress.com. Happy Thanksgiving!